So by now, most of you out there, like in the camera space, especially the, APS-C camera space, have noticed that, there's a lot of third-party like lens choices from the likes of like TT-Artisans, 7Artisans, Viltrox, and Samyang, Rokinon, especially for for Sony for E-mount. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately, and I know I made a video previously about like my favorite lens, which is the Sony 24mm f2.8G, which I was using on my A6700. Since buying that lens, I've been like seeing more and more like comparable lenses on Amazon from some of the manufacturers that I previously mentioned. And I'm kind of wondering, like, I've been wanting to test some of them out to see if they could match up to the quality of the native Sony lens. So what I picked up was this 7Artisans 25mm f1.8 autofocus lens here. And the reason I picked up this particular one compared to like the Viltrox or any of the other TT-Artisans like 24, 25mm equivalents is that, oddly enough, this 7Artisans 25mm is weather sealed. Some might say like it's not fully weather sealed, it just has a gasket where the lens mount meets the body, which is more than I can say for a lot of other lenses. And the other reason I picked it up is because it's relatively small. So we're doing a casual unboxing here. So this is a lens. I rarely use lens hoods because usually I'll put a variable ND filter on it, and when you do that, the front diameter changes and you can't use the hood. How do you get this hood off? Oh, just have to use a little bit of force and then it comes off. Here it is. It's a little 25mm f1.8. So that's another thing too, is like this lens compared to my Sony lens is, I think, a stop and a third or something brighter. So let's check out that weather sealing here. And yeah, in fact, there is a gasket on the back here, which I like to see. I'm not gonna go over specs too much, but if you're curious, it's a 58mm filter thread. Let's go ahead and get this on the camera and kind of see what it looks like mounted to the A6700. So here you have it. I think it's a nice fit. It's a nice look. I mean, if you care about how your lenses look on your camera bodies, and for me, it's not really the look, it's more the balance. And I feel like with the weight of this lens, which is it's like 180 grams, but I mean, it does feel nice. And the reason I picked up the 25mm focal length versus like the 35 or the 50 is that on an APS-C camera, 25mm becomes like a 37.5. And that 35 to 37mm focal length is my personal favorite. I feel like it's a good storytelling lens for, especially if you're behind the camera. I like to film the kids, and 35mm gets enough in the frame where you can get some environment, but it also can isolate the subject, especially with that f1.8. So what I'll do now is I'm gonna switch cameras here, and then I'll show you what this shot looks like with this camera on. It'll look a little different because right now I'm shooting on the Extra Muse, which is a 20mm lens, and it's an f2. But I'm gonna sit in the same spot. I'm gonna have this camera mounted on this tripod. I'll push the tripod back a little bit so I can kind of get myself in frame, because if I put it where this camera is, you're just gonna see like this. So let's switch that right now. All right, so this is the 7Artisans 25mm f1.8 mounted where I would normally mount my A6700 with the Sony 24mm. What do you think? I had to stop down to f2.2 because I was kind of overexposing the scene, because the sun's going down in that direction and it's very tricky to maintain proper exposure because I just have my panel light over here and I'm trying to keep myself exposed properly and also not blow out the window, which is always tricky when I don't really have a good light here, but I think this is working out fine. So obviously the depth of field is not as shallow as it could be because I'm not at f1.8. Like I said, I'm at f2.2, but I just want to test this out, see how the autofocus works, see if I can hear the autofocus. Right now, I'm still running the audio off of the extra Muse that I'm recording with down here because I didn't want to set up the audio for that because that would have took time and I don't have a lot of time. So I'm going to try to like move in here, see if I can hear the autofocus. I do hear it a little bit, like when I put something really close to the camera and I focus back to here. But most of the time when I'm using this camera, I have audio on myself or nowhere near where the lens is. So the sounds of the autofocus are not an issue. In addition to that, like if I'm taking this camera traveling and I'm just grabbing B-roll with it, I'm probably gonna put music over the sounds or hope that the ambient noise kind of cancels out the autofocus sounds. But like I said, it does make noise. So if you're gonna be using like a shotgun mic on this camera with this lens, you'll probably hear it. But for my purposes, like in this setup where I'm using a wireless mic and I'm far away from the camera, it seems to work fine. So I'll just sit here awkwardly and you can tell me what you think about how this image looks. The autofocus box has been glued to my eyes pretty steadily. You know, even when I go back here, I don't even know what the minimum focusing distance is, but I'm about 2 feet from the camera right here, maybe 1.5 feet. Now I'm about 3 feet from the camera. I think this is a great little lens. And it was like $125 versus the Sony 24mm, which was $750, which is crazy because that lens when it came out, I believe it was like $500. But that's the world we live in, where something that was $500 a couple years ago is now almost $800. But anyway, that's it for this unboxing and test of the 7Artisans 25mm f1.8. It's a wrap. Thanks for watching.